Modi ora in the headlines. New Zealand's provincial reconstruction team has now left Kiwi base in Bamiyan in Afghanistan. It marks the end of 10 years of service in the province. They'll return to New Zealand next week. A no-surprise budget is being promised by Bill English in 5 weeks' time. The Finance Minister told a business audience in Wellington that he's on track to return the books to surplus by 2015. But Mr English is concerned about the housing market.
The current rate of house price inflation, if it continues, is likely to be accompanied by higher interest rates sooner and an even higher exchange rate.
And in international news, North Korea has been repeatedly moving multiple missiles around in an apparent bid to confuse outside intelligence gatherers ahead of an expected launch. The two mid-range Musudan missiles have been repeatedly moved in and out of a warehouse facility on its east coast. Otago University's Dr. Robert Patman says the continuing sabre-rattling rhetoric coming from North Korea is combustible.
We hear that they're going to test launch a missile. The serious thing is if that missile actually hit a target, and that would be very worrying. But any sort of retaliation would be pretty crushing.
And Guam has raised its official threats level and tested its emergency alert system. The island has been identified as a potential missile target. With a North Korean missile test expected at any time, authorities say the US territory in Western Pacific is on yellow alert. However, New Zealanders living in South Korea are taking threats from the north with a grain of salt. Kiwi Conrad Kuta says while there's some concern, most people believe they're just empty threats. And in his 2013 State of the Union address, President Obama sees the country's rising and thriving middle class as the true engine of America's economic growth. Speaking from the Rose Garden, the President sent Congress his budget for the fiscal year 2014, which he says will address the country's financial problems.
And that's what the budget I'm sending to Congress today represents. A fiscally responsible blueprint for middle-class jobs and growth.
And back home, a man critically injured in a fatal Tokoroa house fire has now died in hospital. The blaze broke out on Tuesday evening. Despite surgery, 47-year-old Adrian Glennie died overnight. Kua whoatu tetehi korowai nā te kingi Māori tuarima i tā koha kia hiamana Mao Zedong ki te kāwanatanga i te rangi nei. I tukuna te korowai ki te minita mō ngā take Māori a Peter Sharples me te Premier John Key hei taonga mō te tau kotahi ki te Papa Tongarewa. No te tau kotahi mano i warau 57 te korowai i whoatu ai e kingi koroki. New statistics out today show we're working harder. Statistics New Zealand has released its labour productivity figures from 2008 to 2011. It was up 0.5%, with the majority of that bump coming from the agriculture industry. And in sports, ANZ Championship bosses will now decide whether to sanction Fever coach Norma Plummer. Plummer has let it rip in the wake of the comments made by Irene van Dyke, but has also taken a shot at Nolene Taurua, Robin Broughton and Katrina Grant. It comes just a day after teams were warned over remarks made by a number of players and coaches. And finally, the Breakers bench players have come in for special praise ahead of the Game 2 of the Australian Basketball League Grand Final Series in Perth tomorrow. Coach Andre Lamana says his side is the deepest it's ever been during his tenure and is often the difference in games. Ka rā whiua koutou mā. Koe rā ngā karere matua mai te wharikōrero o Rima, mauri ora.